Hey, I will make sense of an American superhuman activity film called Ant-Man and the Wasp. The film starts off with eminent physicist Hank Pym and his significant other Janet. Quite a long while back, while working for Safeguard, he found the enchanted particles through which one could shrivel or turn out to be exorbitantly huge. Hank and his significant other made suits for themselves utilizing these particles and battled against the troublemakers. In 1987, during one of their missions, they needed to prevent a Soviet atomic rocket from exploding. They arrived on the rocket and shrinked into the size of bugs. However, even that was sufficiently not to acquire section inside it. Thus, with time expiring, Janet chose to put her life in extreme danger. She decreased herself considerably further until she arrived at subatomic size. Then, she effectively entered the rocket and annihilated it from the inside, subsequently saving the country from fiasco. In any case, all the while, Janet stalled out in the quantum domain, an aspect which comprises of only unending void. She made an honest effort to recover her unique size and return to the first world, yet fizzled. Accordingly, Hank accepted that she died and continued on with his own personal business. Notwithstanding, quite a while later, when the Insect Man, Scott Lang, figures out how to escape the quantum domain, Hank gets restored trust that his significant other is as yet alive and that there is a method for getting her covered. His little girl, Trust, is likewise prepared to help him in any capacity conceivable. In the meantime, after the occasions of Commander America, nationwide conflict, the justice fighters, including Scott, are detained at home since they disregarded the Sokovia Accords in Leipzig. Scott goes through the majority of his day playing with his little girl, Cassie. With the assistance of his closest companion, Luis, he has set up a little jungle gym all through the house. Nonetheless, at some point, when he inadvertently breaks the wall with his feet, the FBI shows up to mind him. Investigator cautions him to avoid inconvenience, saying he has just 3 days of house capture left. From that point onward, he is allowed to go any place he needs. Excited by the disclosure, Scott makes an honest effort to breathe easy. He plays the drums, rehearses enchantment, and does a wide range of stuff which he never envisioned he'd do. A couple of seconds after the fact, Scott sees something zooming around the house. However, before he can research, it quiets him, making him drop. At the point when he awakens, he ends up being driven someplace by Trust. It turns out she was the bug that was zooming around his home prior. She believes that him should meet her father and assist him with getting Janet back. Scott concurs, yet all of a sudden, he understands that he is on house capture. He hollers at expectation for removing him when he was just 1 day from being delivered. Nonetheless, she quiets him down and makes sense of that. She removed his lower leg armband and put it on a monster subterranean insect she tracked down in his loft. Presently, the FBI will know next to nothing that he is out of the house. In the following scene, they show up at the lab where Hank appears to have made a passage to the quantum domain. Scott investigates it, and afterward begins making sense of about his fantasy exhaustively. Hearing this, Hank and Trust are paralyzed on the grounds that Janet wanted to play Find the Stowaway. They derive that Scott has some way or another associated with her, subsequent to investing some energy in the quantum domain. This could likewise imply that Janet is attempting to impart through him, potentially to offer her definite directions. In the meantime, that's what Hank uncovers. Albeit the passage is practically prepared, they are feeling the loss of a vital electronic part. Along these lines, they will meet somebody who can give it to them. Before they leave, Hank contracts the lab to the size of a portfolio and takes it with him. Shockingly, a straightforward figure is snooping on them from neighboring The three show up external a cave, however, just expectation gets in, while the folks stay inside the van and screen what is happening. Trust meets an underground market vendor named Sonny Birch and inquires as to whether he has the part she is searching for. The last option says okay, however, he needs a considerably huge total for it. At the point when Trust attempts to arrange, Birch declines, saying he has different clients who can give him more ideal arrangements. Upset, Trust claims to leave, however, the exceptionally 1 second from now, she changes into her WASP suit and starts battling with Birch's thugs. She has blasters and other howdy tech devices on her suit, with the assistance of which she effectively overcomes them. Trust then moves toward Birch and grabs the part from him, however, as she's leaving, the straightforward figure from prior goes after her. It can go through any strong, which makes Trust's assaults futile. At the point when the circumstance goes crazy, Subterranean Insect Man additionally jumps into the battle. Notwithstanding, even with all his skill, the straightforward figure figures out how to pull off the part. To exacerbate the situation, it additionally gets inside Hank's van and takes his folder case. The elderly person is enraged and crushed, as the lab was his main expectation of getting Janet back. Sooner or later, Scott carries the dad-girl team to his companion, Louis' office, since he accepts that House isn't protected any longer. The three then, at that point, begin coming up with thoughts to get the portfolio back. Scott removes its veil and uncovers itself to be a young lady. She is Ava Starr. She continues to transition, and by the expression all over, it is clear that she is in a ton of torment. Ava then strides inside an extraordinary chamber to control her powers and re-energize. In the meantime, Scott and the pack show up at the college where Bill works. He is showing his understudies, yet when he sees Hank, he sends everybody away. The two are still harsh over their past and nearly get into a battle. Yet, right then, at that point, Scott spots criminal investigator outside and stresses that they need to leave. Prior to going, however, Bill makes sense of that they can find the lab by adjusting one of the suit's controllers. Hank specifies that they can't utilize the new Subterranean Insect Man suit since it is still in its preliminary stage, so Scott suggests that they utilize the bygone one. The main issue is that he gave it to his girl, and she has taken it to school in a prize case. Afterward, Scott and Trust slip into Cassie's school, camouflaged as bugs. Everything works out as expected for some time, however, at that point, Scott's suit breakdowns, driving him to conceal inside a room. As he attempts to fix his suit, he develops to the size of a youngster. Luckily, before anybody can recognize them, they get to Cassie's homeroom and recover the old suit out of her prize case. Utilizing the technique Bill depicted, the threesome then finds Ava's home and tracks down the lab. They see her resting inside the chamber and attempt to escape without awakening her, yet fall flat. Ava rapidly takes them out and attaches them to isolate seats. In a stunning development, it is uncovered that her coach is, in all honesty, Bill. He took on Ava after her folks unfortunately died when she was a youngster. Following this, the film goes into a flashback. Quite a long while prior, when Hank was working for Safeguard, he had a collaborator named Elias. He was excellent at his work, however, when Hank figured out that he sold their thoughts into the bootleg market, he quickly terminated him. Notwithstanding, this didn't prevent Elias from directing investigations. His principal objective was to arrive at the quantum domain, and for that, he made a passage. Sadly, at some point, amidst a trial, the passage became unsteady. His better half attempted to escape with their young little girl, who is uncovered to be, as a matter of fact, Ava. Nonetheless, the young lady ran back for her dad. Before long, the passage detonated, killing her folks and leaving her with. However, it is a gamble she will take, as Hank pays weakened particles, bringing about her uncontrolled staging. Presently, Ava, alongside Bill, needs to utilize Janet's quantum energy to treat her illness and take her back to predictability. A multitude of prepared insects are released. They develop to a huge size and free the threesome, permitting them to escape with the lab. In the following scene, they show up at a backwoods and grow the lab. Hank makes an honest effort to work the gadget, however, experiences difficulty doing as such. All of a sudden, Scott begins behaving like Janet and enters a few directions on the PC. Yet again, it turns out she has begun conveying through his body. Janet uncovers that they had been entering some unacceptable organizes this time, and that is the reason they lacked the ability to track down a hint of her. She is positive that they will meet in the future, yet she likewise cautions them that they just have 2 hours to make things work. From that point onward, the quantum domain will turn out to be unsteady to such an extent that they will not have the option to contact her for the following 100 years. Somewhere else, the underground market vendor, Birch and his thugs swarm Luis' office and ask him where Scott is. True to form, Luis will not sell out his companion, yet he ultimately shouts out when Birch infuses him with a reality serum. All at once, Ava shows up all of a sudden, undermines the hooligans to avoid Scott, and escapes. It turns out she was furtively hearing their discussion, and presently, she additionally knows where the mysterious lab is based. In the interim, Birch calls the FBI and illuminates them that Scott is right now out abusing his home capture. Luckily, just after they leave, Luis calls his dearest friend and cautions him to get back straight away. Scott, utilizing his unique suit, figures out how to do that at the last possible second. In the woodland, Trust and Hank contract their lab and are going to leave when unexpectedly the FBI encompasses them. One of the police has a go at removing the lab, however, Ava shows up there, takes him out, and takes the lab for herself. At the point when Scott finds out about this, he quickly breaks the dad-girl couple out of the FBI Central Command, utilizing his prepared insects. Luis additionally shows up there and chooses to go along with them. Following this, they track the lab to a structure where Bill has previously begun his examinations. In any case, he doesn't gain a lot of headway, as the monster subterranean insects rapidly encompass him. Then, at that point, Hank utilizes his old suit and gets inside the quantum domain to track down Janet. After the lab is contracted once more, Ava unexpectedly shows up and begins going after Scott, who has now changed into Insect Man. Meanwhile, Luis and Trust get away in a vehicle. Sooner or later, Scott stunts Ava and joins his companions in the vehicle, yet they are before long pursued by Birch and his men. Amidst all the disarray, Scott transforms into Goliath Man, Trust transforms into the Wasp, and Ava indeed shows up. As they are battling all around the city, Birch takes the lab and escapes to the harbors, where he sheets a boat to move away. Scott follows him, and this time, he transforms into the biggest variant of Goliath Man. He effectively recovers the lab, however, when he is going to get back to the shore, he experiences issues in breathing because of his huge size. Before long, he falls oblivious and suffocates inside the water, yet fortunately, Trust salvages him. Then again, Hank explores through the quantum domain, utilizing the directions Janet gave him, until he at last finds her. After such a long time of examination and difficult work, he has succeeded, and the couple reunites with a close-to-home kiss. In the meantime, the lab gets back to its unique size in the city. Ava and Bill show up there and begin separating Janet's quantum energy in order to save Ava. This causes Janet, who is inside the domain, to lose energy unexpectedly. Be that as it may, fortunately, before things go crazy, Scott and Trust show up and impair the machine, giving Hank and Janet sufficient opportunity to escape the quantum domain. At the point when Expectation sees her mother without precedent for more than 20 years, she can't contain her tears and promptly goes to embrace her. After the close-to-home gathering, Janet sees Ava's condition, so she moves toward her and contacts her face. Shockingly, the young lady quits staging. Subsequent to remaining in the quantum domain for such a long time, Janet has acquired abilities to do so. However, Ava actually needs a ton of energy to be completely fixed. As the gathering takes off, Birch and his thugs are hanging tight for them. Be that as it may, this time, Luis weakens them with the assistance of his companions. Before long, the police show up at the scene and capture the miscreants. In the meantime, after the recordings of Insect Man rise on the news, analyst who accepts that Scott has disregarded his home capture. He rapidly goes to check. However, shockingly, Scott is there. Intrigued by his genuineness, Wu pronounces that his home capture is at last finished. In the last scene, the film seems to end on a blissful note. Hank and Janet begin living joyfully close to an ocean side. Luis tracks down a rich client, and Trust and Scott start a relationship. In the post-credits scene, be that as it may, things go south. The researcher couple and Trust set up the quantum passage and have Scott enter it to bring back some quantum energy for Ava. Be that as it may, when he is going to return, Thanos snaps his fingers and clears out portion of the world's populace. Sadly for Scott, Hank, Janet and Trust are totally gone. He is left ignorant regarding what occurred as the radio out of nowhere goes quiet. Scott is presently caught in the quantum domain without any approach to getting away from it. The film closes as we are shown a little montage of the abandoned city of San Francisco. A big part of the populace has evaporated. However, inside Scott's home, the huge subterranean insect is as yet alive and living it up on the drum set of the quantum domain.